Well, when we first talked to Mark about playing here, we said, yeah, we do old-time songs, old favorites, early country songs, and originals. He said, stop right there. That's all you're doing, boys. No, actually, I think we got a couple of real old public domain songs we can get away with playing today. But mostly we're doing originals. First was one of mine, second was one of Willy's. And many of these we've recorded, some we've not. This next song, The Man with a Hole in His Head. My wife was a school nurse and brought home a young people's book one time. It had a picture of a skull and a big spike going through it. And I said, well, that's lovely. Well, I'll just sing you the song and hope you enjoy it. Phineas Gage. Phineas Gage had a hole in his head, and everyone knew that he ought to be dead. Was it fate or blind luck? Though it never came clear, he kept keeping on year after year. Now Phineas Gage was a prince of a man, a hard-working foreman, the best in the land, resourceful, respectful, responsible too, the pride of the railroad and crew. September 13 was a fine autumn day. The crew was in Cavendish, working away, drilling and blasting and laying the track across the Green Mountains and back. But something incredible happened that day when Gage was distracted and turning away, and his tampon rod slipped down the hole he had drilled. It's a miracle he wasn't killed, for it struck on the granite and threw off a spark, and the gunpowder down in that hole went off with a roar, and that big iron rod was blasted right up through his skull. And Phineas Gage had a hole in his head, and everyone knew that he ought to be dead. Was it fate or blind luck? Though it never came clear, he kept keeping on year after year. Old Phineas lay in a heap on the ground. They knew he was gone as they gathered around, but he sat up and started to talking instead, with a big bleeding hole in his head. And he rode in an ox cart with nary a groan. Arriving in town, he got out on his own, climbed up on the porch, took a chair and sat down as the townspeople gathered around. And the doc come a-running and took off his specs. Said, Mr. Gage, better cash in your checks. This time he quit talking and learned how to pray. You'll be meeting your maker today. Well, those medical fellers did all they could do. Not one of them reckoned he'd ever pull through. But a couple months later, well, glory to God, old Phineas was back on the job. But something had changed and he didn't last long. He was loud and profane, just could not get along. And his friends turned away, saying one thing's for sure:
old Gage isn't Gage anymore.
So he worked a few odd jobs on farms and in town, caught on with a sideshow and traveled around. But that big iron rod was his only true friend, going with him wherever he went. A medical miracle, old Phineas Gage ended up down in Chile, driving a stage. Lived 11 more years, missing part of his brain, till the day of his reckoning came. There's a strange-looking skull and a big iron rod. Down at Harvard, they're still on display. And the students and brain people all the world round study the case till this day. 'Cause Phineas Gage had a hole in his head, and everyone knew that he ought to be dead. Was it fate or blind luck? Though it never came clear, he kept keeping on year after year. Thanks so much. And it's all true.